Okay, we're now in the book of Job, second chapter, verse 11. This is after Eov is already afflicted, both financially, loses his children, and physically. And on top of all that, his wife says, Barech Elohim v'amut, curse God and you'll die. Not only she says you have to commit suicide, but she also rejects all of his teaching. She says, I don't believe in a system of reward and punishment. I don't believe in a just God. The world is cruel. God is cruel. Just commit suicide. With all that, lo hata Eov bisfatavi, he didn't utter any blasphemy, but it is insinuated that he was thinking of something like that. Now what happens? וישמעו שלושת רעי איוב את כל הרעה הזאת הבאה עליו, ויבוא איש ממקומו. Eov had three good friends, and they heard that this is what happened. ויוועדו יחדיו לבוא, לנוד לו ולנחמו. So they arranged it between them to come and to show, to empathize and to comfort him. Their names are, as the rest of the book show, that this whole thing is a fiction, it's symbolic. The name is Eliphaz HaTemani, Bildad Ashuhi, Sofar Na'amati. Now when they say Teman, not necessarily Yemen of today, Teman is from the south, but the name Eliphaz is strength and gold, so this is someone who has prowess. Bildad sounds like Levad, someone who sits alone. Sofar is the other place where we have the word Safar in Tanakh is in Shoftim. Yeshuv v'yitzpor me'ar ha'karamel. It seems that it has to do with the morning, early morning. Each one of them represent maybe a different quality, and they all come to talk to Eov. What do they do when they come and see him? They cannot even recognize him. He has been transformed by the disease, by the boils. He tore his clothes, shaven head, so they cannot recognize him. So they start crying. They tear their clothes. They sit down with him and put dust on their head. For 7 days and 7 nights, they just sit with him. They don't even say anything. That is sort of one of the biblical sources for sitting Shiva, even though it's not really Shiva, because they came to him much later. For the time that it took them to get together and come to him, maybe a month has passed already, but they sit with him for 7 days. Then, read this. Aharichen patach Eov et pihu. Then Eov, finally in chapter 3, opens his mouth. Now he's going to say something. What does he say? Patach Eov et pihu vaykalel et yomo. He curses his day. Vayan Eov vayomar, and he says the following. And in our tradition, the Iraqi tradition, this is how my grandfather taught me. Up until this point in the book, the melody is like the melody of other books of scriptures, like Megillat Esther. But here we transition to a special melody that is reserved for Eov. So the melody, just to get a sense of it, of the Pesukim prior to Eov speaking is like Megillat Esther. So this is the tune of Esther. But then you transition to a different tune. It's like יבד יום יוולד בו והלילה אמר אור הגבר היום ההוא יהיה חושך על ידי שאלוה ממעל ועל תופעה עליו נהרה יגלו חושך וצל מוות תשכון עליו עננה. So the idea of that you chant it like a song, and it's in some manuscripts this whole rest of the book is written like a poem. It's poetry. What does Eov say? יבד יום יוולד בו והלילה אמר אור הגבר. May the day on which I was born perish, and the night in which it was announced that a male has been conceived. May God above have no concern for this day. May it be darkness, may light not shine on it. May darkness and deep gloom reclaim it. May a pall lie over it. May what blackens the day terrify it. May obscurity carry off the night. So And you read all this and you say, what is the point of cursing the night or the day in which you were born? What is the idea behind that? So we can understand that as just saying, I wish I would never be born at all. Right? That is similar to what we find in Yirmiyahu. Remember what I said, Yirmiyahu is probably the author of Job? Because Yirmiyahu says the same thing. He says, cursed is the man who came and told my father, a boy was born to you. But Yov says something more than that. He says, הלילה הוא יקחהו אופל על ייחד בימי שנה במספר ירחים על יבוא. May that night not be counted among the days of the year. May it not appear in any of its months. It's basically, let's erase this day from the calendar. This is like, you go to, in certain buildings, there's no 13th floor. You go from the 12th to the 14th because people believe that the 13th, number 13 is bad luck. This is what Eov is. Of course, it's ridiculous, but this is what Eov says. Eov says in this phrase where he speaks about the day in which he was born that he's cursed, and then he goes on to say, why do I curse that day? If that day would have blocked my mother's womb, it would hide trouble from my eyes. Why did I not die at birth? Expire as I came forth from the womb. Why were their knees to receive me or breasts for me to suck? For now would I be lying in repose, asleep and at rest. He says, life is not worth living. He's at such point of depression and frustration and sorrow and agony. He says, there's no point in living that life. I would have been better off if I was born dead and buried right away, and then I would have eternal peace with all those who passed on to the next world. Remember that I mentioned yesterday, in the book of Eov, we don't find the belief of the afterlife in the sense of heaven and hell. There's no reward and punishment in the world to come. In his world, once you're done here, that's it. And after death, everybody's equal. How does he describe this equality? He says, I will be there עם מלכים ויועצי ארץ הבונים חורבות למו, או עם שרים זהב להם הממלאים בתיהם כסף. He says, who goes to the grave? On one hand, you have the kings and the noblemen who possess great wealth and build, and sarcastically says, they build palaces for themselves. But really, those are horavot. They build rooms for themselves. Because after they die, someone else will inherit it, and after a while, maybe 1,000 years, maybe more, those places will become desolate. So what's the point in building all these great buildings? It says, כנפל תמון לא אהיה, כי עוללים לא ראו אור. I would be like someone who was buried stillbirth, babies who never saw the light. שם רשעים חדלו רוגז, שם ינוחו הגיע כוח. The wicked are not afraid anymore, and those whose strength is spent can rest. קטון וגדול שם הוא, ועבד חופשי מאדוניו. The small and great are there alike, and the slave is free of his master. And this is another pasuk that we say during the memorial services. קטון וגדול שם הוא, ועבד חופשי מאדוניו. למה ייתן לעמל אור וחיים למרי נפש? Why does he give light to the sufferer and life to the bitter in spirit? Here, it transitions from blaming the day to blaming God. Who is the one who gives life? It's not the day, it's God. So there are two things here. One, and I go back to the concept of cursing the day. When Yov curses the day and says, let this day not be numbered, not be written on the calendar, he basically says the system of reward and punishment doesn't work. It is determined by the astrological maps. This is the belief that people believe in destiny, in the horoscope, in the position of the stars when you're born. He says the fact that I was born on that day, that month, that year, this is what has determined my life. I lived well until a certain point, and then I started suffering. He says, therefore, I should not have been born at all. I don't want the joy. I don't want the suffering.
Does he indirectly blame, somewhat, not curses God, but indirectly he's blaming God?
Yeah.
Why was I even born?
Yeah. And so he starts with blaming the day, saying that the system is sort of like, cast the die and see who is going to survive and who's not. Not much different than the belief of Catholics in grace. The grace of God has nothing to do with your actions. You might have it, you might not have it. And then he goes on to blame not only the day or destiny, but God. Lama yiten le'amel or v'chaim le'mari nafesh. Why, if you already know God, it's all predicted, because he says that God knows that someone who was born on that day will have that kind of life. He says, so why are you giving me life? I don't need that. To those who wait for death, but it does not come, who search for it more than for treasure. Those who rejoice for death, they are glad to reach the grave. He speaks about people who are so who gave up on life, depressed, frustrated, angry, rejected, alone, each one with his own pekale or package, as they say. He says they just wait for today. So basically he says the same thing as his wife, if you realize. Only she says commit suicide. Baruch Elohim vamut, bless God and he'll kill you. And he says I cannot, because now I have to obey God's will. I have to live here until he gives me the permission to leave. So life is cruel, unjust, and you must live it. You have no option. He says, and the way he sees himself, لَگَّبَرْ أَشَرْ دَرْكُونِ إِسْتَارَ وَيَسَخْ إِلُوهَ بَعَدُ. The man, I am the man who has lost his way, that God has curtained off or walled off. Now he says, my groaning serves as my bread, my roaring pours forth as water. Says his sorrow became his daily bread. For what I feared has overtaken me, what I dreaded has come upon me. I had no repose, no quiet, no rest, and trouble came. So here Eov now really presents his theology. Later on he will come back to claim that he's a righteous person. The prophet said that he's a righteous person. But what kind of a righteous person he is, what kind of a tzaddik is Eov, is the selfish tzaddik. He's the one who does everything by the book because he doesn't want to be punished. He's the good citizen that, obeys the law, law-abiding citizen, does everything right, parks not only in the right spot, but he makes sure that it's, within millimeters of, because he doesn't want to risk getting a ticket, being fined, being punished, being jailed, whatever. But the very same person, if he would not have the fear of punishment, would turn to be an animal towards others. Like, the Lord of the Flies, that famous book where the kids on the island become this cruel society. There are no inhibitions. So he has all the inhibitions, all the reasons that prevent him from doing evil things are external. It's the power of God. So he's afraid of God. And here it says, Pahat pahadi vayatani. I always had that fear. What is the fear? He always has the fear that he will lose favor in the eyes of God. For whatever reason, even though he's such a law-abiding citizen, God, who is all-powerful, can do whatever he wants, will decide to smite him. He says, I knew that day will come, and here it happened. Meaning, in the bottom line of this chapter, he sides with his wife. The system doesn't work. I cannot do anything about it. Now his friends join in, and as we'll see with the first response, this is the kind of thing that we say with friends like this. Who needs enemies? Because the first word of comfort that comes from Eliphaz HaTemani, he says, "Hanisa davar elecha til'e va'atzor b'milin miyuchal. Hine yisarta rabim v'yadayim rafot tehazek." He says, if one would try to talk to you, would it be too much? Who can? You're not holding back your words. He says, you are the man who used to you consoled and comforted so many people. You supported those who were depressed. Or your words have kept him who stumbled from falling. You have braced knees that gave way. Now that it overtakes you, it is too much. Now you are nerved. In other words, he says what you hear very often, especially in America. 3 words: be a man. Okay. We basically says we've heard you. You've suffered. You think you suffered more than others. Everybody suffers. You are the one who used to console everyone. So the same as you've consoled others, you do the same. Be a man. Stop crying. Stop whining. It's not that bad. Now, he adds on to say, Zechorna mihu naki avad ve'efo yesharim nichadu. Says, now think, did you ever see an innocent man who has perished, or a righteous man who was punished for no reason? No, you've never seen that. So what is he saying? He tells Eliphaz tells Eov, a righteous man is never punished. So now flip it over. So if you have been punished, you're not righteous. So that is the way to console Eov. First, be a man. Second, you think you're such a good person, you're not. The fact that you're punished shows that you're not a good person. And I've seen that. I've heard that at funerals, at shivas, and people sitting trying to offer consolation. That they either say, take it with a stride, be strong. They don't let that person express his sorrow, his agony, and then they would say probably it happened because of this, because of that, and they find reasons just to enhance the guilt of the person who was in mourning. So it doesn't really help him. He says, what I have seen is those who plow evil reap mischief. Meaning that, he says, I guess that underneath all your good works, there was something evil, and therefore you were punished. And then he describes his visions. He has sort of a nightly visions. I have this feeling of terror. He has such a powerful vision. What is it? I hear a voice, sort of a divine voice. Can mortals be acquitted by God? Can one be more righteous than God? He tells Eov, you are trying to fight with God. You are trying to say that you're right and God is wrong. It's not going to work. You're wrong, God is right. Another verse we use at the funeral says he doesn't trust his own servants. He doesn't believe in his own angels or messengers. Even more so, shochene batei homer, those who dwell in houses of clay that came from dust and will turn to dust. They will disappear and they have no wisdom. So Eliphaz comes back to Eov saying, you have no right to question God. He knows more than you. He is more powerful than you. He is immortal. You are transitory. You are mortal. You are going to disappear. You're not allowed to question. Be strong. Accept the verdict. You're probably a sinner, and that's it. And he goes on to speak for a while until the other friend speaks, but we'll stop here. We're on top of chapter 5 of Eov, and we'll continue tomorrow. B'ezrat Hashem.